It started with books, then went on to music, then went on to grocery, then went on to jewelry. We did everything. In those days, it was one of the biggest checks for a startup. And it was a fantastic journey. Sometimes you could be just running the race without really knowing for sure whether you're running the right direction or not. Good to sometimes stop, figure out.
Hi, this is Siddharth Aluwalia and welcome to The Neon Show. Today we are joined by the co-founder of India's largest online food and grocery store. His startup journey in e-commerce began in 1999 with Fabmart, but he soon realized India was not ready for it then. 12 years later, the founders of Fabmart came together to create another online grocery store. This store came to be known as BigBasket. We welcome V S Sudhakar sir on The Neon Show. I would also like to thank our sponsors, Prime Venture Partners, for sponsoring The Neon Show. Hope you enjoy it. I would like to first start, the podcast by going to your childhood, right? What are the memories that you remember, where you grew up, and about your parents?
Okay. So, if I look at my parents, in fact, very interestingly, my father was the very cool cat in that sense. I mean, never would say...
You borrow your coolness from him.
I would love to believe that I'm as cool as him. But the point is, he's a very, very cool person. My mother was very disciplined and very focused on discipline.
Usually it's the opposite, right? Mothers are...
I know that. That's why I said, very, very rarely would you get this combo. So, in a way, it worked very well because a woman being the harder one is always going to be softer than the man being the harder one, right? So, therefore, fathers being the softer set or the softer partner makes it that much easier for the children. So, we had a fantastic childhood. I mean, both between my father and mother, the whole environment was always very comfortable. So,
and you were born in Bangalore?
No. I have not been in Bangalore till 95. I did one stint prior to that, but I was actually born in Chennai.
Okay.
And but I did my father was in the railways, so therefore we used to move around quite a bit. Not too much. Mumbai. So after I was born, we moved to Mumbai.
Okay.
And then to Hyderabad. Then my father was in Vijayawada. Then I went doing my engineering
from
Vijayawada. Then did engineering in Allahabad. Then worked for 2 years in DCM. Then went to Ahmedabad for my... So I've been moving around quite a bit too.
So by the time you graduated in 1984 from IIM...
85, I graduated from IIM Ahmedabad.
And you were already, I believe, 26, 27 by then.
Yeah, I was 25 and a half.
25 and a half. So at that point of time, you choose to go and work for a startup at that point in time, right? TVS.
Yeah, it was a startup and not a startup. So the interesting thing was TVS Group, obviously, very, very well established group. It's been around for years. So they were looking at non-auto areas to see if there is an opportunity to do something different. And that's really where I joined this small team of just 3 of us.
And was it a campus? Was it a campus placement?
No, it was not a campus placement. It was an off-campus placement.
How did you choose?
So it was interesting. I think I actually now don't even remember where I came across this. And at that point of time, my parents were in Chennai.
Yeah.
And my parents were very keen that I should come and stay with them. I said, if I get a good opportunity, I'm happy to do it. And this opportunity, when I spoke to Mr. Gopal Srinivasan, it sounded very interesting because he was just saying that we are going to do something from ground up. And absolutely nothing on the ground. And literally the 3 of us focused on different areas that we could look at. So for instance, the kind of range of things that this team of 3 we did, one was a Whirlpool, right? The tie-up with Whirlpool, which was the TVS Whirlpool, which is now Whirlpool.
Yeah.
So then there was something called Grammar locks. And there was something called Grammar seats. So car seats. Then we did electronics, which is really what I focused on. So there were interestingly varied set of things that we were looking at when we were looking to get partners in so that we can get the technology and because that's typically the manufacturing bloodline was very strong in TVS, right? Because they've been in manufacturing for very, very long.
I believe you had an appetite for range. If you have read the book called Range by David Epstein.
Not really.
So it talks about why generalists will score more in a specialized world. and they'll do better.
Okay.
So it talks about, right, the thing you mentioned, that you were looking for range somehow, and that theme continued, right? Among the 5 co-founders in BigBasket, you were the one who had the maximum amount of range.
Range meaning, range of work you're saying.
Range of work.
More importantly, I would say open-ended thing. Tian always used to say that, you have very carefully and very cleverly picked the best job in the company. So he always used to say, you seem to have the max joy out of all of us because you picked the right job for yourself. So, I like unstructured, something where you're building, you're doing something different, you're doing something new. Always been very exciting.
But at the same time, you are the one who is the most process driven.
Where did you pick that? No, but you're right. Absolutely. Because I'll tell you, it's a very interesting thing again, where this process thing came in very strongly, and something which I really believe in now. So, in 95, I was working for this, again, another kind of startup called Microland, and I was heading the North and the East divisions for Microland. At that point of time, I got an offer from a company called Angaman Bass Networks, which was a network technology company based out of the US. And the role was that of a country manager. So I said, so when I was telling Pradeep Karu, who is the founder of Microland, so he told me, tell me what is it that we should do, but I don't want you to go. I told him, I will go and I will come back. I need at least 2 years. And I said, this is a very simple thing that I want to figure out. If you look at an MNC in those days at least, and it's true even today, those guys would work 5 days, no Saturday, no Sunday. People work only that many hours. Whereas we used to work 10 hours, 12 hours, 6 days, 6.5 days, and yet they make more money. I said, there must be something these guys have cracked. I want to go figure out what that is. And I said, I'm happy to come back and maybe we'll help do things better. So what I learned were 2 critical pieces. In fact, one of the things when I joined, my boss told me, ask for whatever infra you want. Don't ask for more people. So getting additional people is the most difficult thing. But if you look at an Indian context, the easiest thing you'll get is the people. What you won't get is the infra. Oh, you want to invest in the latest infra? Oh, we have to think about it. Oh, you want 10 more people? No problems, take them. The point is exactly the reverse. They said, very difficult to get. Ask for whatever infra you want. So 2 things they really focus on. One is create very good infrastructure. What that means is what works, works. So you don't end up wasting time because the wire is loose. Yeah. Look at the amount of time you all spend because something doesn't work, right? You'll go around trying to fix it. Just imagine if all that goes away, my productivity will just zoom up. Yeah. That's the first part. Second is extremely process driven. A process, once it's set, it's set. You can't generally play around with it. That's the only way I realized that when you build scale, you can't build scale without process. And process is not what you write on paper and people talk about a process. People have a nice, either a project sheet or a process sheet or an Excel sheet which talks about the process. It is whether you execute it on ground. When you execute it on ground, you can feel the difference. So at the end of 2 years, I realized if I really get it down to the basics, these are the 2 things. And if you really look at in an Indian context, one of the weaknesses we have as a country is our process orientation, right? Very poor process orientation. So if we change that, in my view, I think that in itself will be a big change for the country. Because I think we have the intelligence, right? We have the capability.
Hardworking people.
Hardworking. It's just that we lack the discipline and the process orientation.
I think Japanese excelled at it.
Absolutely. Top class. I mean,
and then Chinese copied it in manufacturing.
Exactly. So I think process orientation is not just about manufacturing or at work. Process orientation starts in everything you do, right? Even at home. For instance, a simple thing like following traffic rules. I mean, if there is a queue of cars, right, you know that there is something which is blocking the thing. If 3 more guys go around you, you're going and making it worse.
Yeah.
Just a simple process orientation will make people think that if I do that, I'm going to make things worse. While I think I may get away faster, but overall everybody is going to spend more time.
Yeah.
Simple, things like that. Basically, it's the process orientation or a basic sense of process, right? If we get that. So I realized those are the two things. So actually, after 2 years, Pradeep called me exactly at the end of 2 years. He said, "Boss, 2 saal ho gaye yaar." So I said,
"Come back."
So I said, if there is anything interesting, I'm happy to look at it. And as luck would have it, that's the time when Ambani Bus Networks was being bought over by a company called Newbridge, and they were wanting me to shift to Singapore.
Okay.
So I told them, see, give me something interesting. I'm not very keen to go out. So I'm happy to look at it. So that is when I think the Planet Asia happened. So therefore he was just looking at, he just started up, just imagine this is 97. Okay, when internet itself was just
very small.
Too early, right? So we started an internet services company for Indian clients. And we started building internet-based solutions. So he said, why don't you come and run the company?
And dial-up internet was the norm.
Only dial-up. There was no question of anything else. So, and in fact, I remember talking to somebody the other day when they were asking me questions about that. So, one of the key metrics that we used to track was what would be the page download time. You won't believe it. It used to be a struggle to get it to 45-50 seconds. Just imagine you click, 45-50 seconds it'll take for the page to refresh.
That was teaching people patience.
Exactly. Just imagine today, 2 seconds people will get very impatient, right? So, but technology was like that. And the fact that it was so new, so different, I think people just got so carried away by the fact that this is something which is cutting edge.
I think SIFI was one of the market leaders in India back then.
Exactly.
They had the SIFI broadband for businesses and for individuals.
That used to still be very expensive.
Yes.
And would provide still very little bandwidth. So it used to be a huge struggle. So in fact, when people ask me what's the difference when we did Fabmart versus when we did BigBasket, the single biggest difference is the technology. I mean, there's just bandwidth, availability, speeds, a completely different
and
league.
The mobile.
And the mobile came later. See, mobile didn't come in 2011 end when we started, right? Because then it was just getting in. Because only when the smartphone started coming in, right? That's when the whole concept of phone as a browser really came into play. And that came a little later. So, in fact, interestingly, 2016 or 17, till about 16, 17, 80% of our business used to come from our website.
Okay.
20% used to come from apps. And within a year, it went to exactly the reverse. 2080. Unbelievable. Just that whole transition happened within 2 years. So it was amazing.
And all because of one man, Mukesh Ambani.
Literally. Yeah, in fact, I agree with you. I think I still remember there was this ad which they had put up way back, which said that at some point in the future, Dhirubhai Ambani's dream is that even a rickshawala will be having a smartphone. And this is like way ahead of smartphones. I mean, that's vision. So you really, you need a visionary to drive something as large as this.
Yeah. And visionary in a country like India, everything, right? To have in your pockets to drive a change like that.
True, but I think one can always kind of look at the negative sides of it. But I think the reality is you still need that vision.
Yeah.
You need the dream, you need the drive, you need the energy. And without that, you can't execute, right? So they've executed amazingly well.
They have outcompeted everybody.
Yeah, the outcompeting part is where people can have their grips.
Yes.
But then the fact is, I think they brought the price down, because of which everybody else brought their price down. And fortunately, an Airtel has survived and still making money, good money. And they are also providing the service at the same price. And that has changed the whole country, right? I mean, it's quite.
The UPI wouldn't have happened without that.
Without that, UPI wouldn't have happened. A lot of things wouldn't have happened. I think it's a phenomenal change in technology landscape itself because of that.
The edtech boom couldn't have happened.
Everything. No, all of it. E-commerce itself.
Yes.
I don't think e-commerce would have boomed as much as it has without that one big revolution that happened. That was a major revolution.
E-commerce you can also attribute to the initial starting by Flipkart, by BigBasket, and then the Walmart Flipkart deal.
Yes.
Like it became the largest acquisition India has heard of.
Flipkart Walmart deal what it did was, I think it suddenly opened the gates to startups.
Yeah.
I think suddenly a lot of people said, wow, this is like big money.
Yeah.
Right? So, but I think it did both. It did good and bad. Because I think it also suddenly made it look like the primary reason you do a startup is because you're going to become a $1 billion company.
Yeah.
Which in my view is fundamentally a very lopsided approach to life. I mean, if you're saying the only reason I want to do this is because I think I may potentially make $1 billion, not at least...
Not exciting.
Not exciting meaning. I mean, that's not necessarily the reason.
Yeah,
See, first money should be a byproduct.
Yeah.
Money should not be the main product, right? Money should always be a byproduct. The main product should be the passion, the excitement, the energy that you get into what you do. And I think that's really what drives you, right? That is really what gives you joy. Money is obviously very good to have, right? Nobody can say no to that.
It gives you freedom.
It gives you freedom later, once you get it.
Yeah.
But till you get it, if that's your primary goal, it really, I think, shackles you.
Till then, you are a slave of it.
Exactly. And it shackles you. So it's a very important thing that money is obviously a driver.
Yeah.
Nobody can say that, oh, I don't care for money, right? I mean, some people can. I'm not saying no to that. But I'm just saying it should be a secondary goal or a byproduct, not the primary goal or the primary product. Then I think life becomes which is why one thing that I always tell startups when I have an opportunity to talk to them and they say, no, what should I do? Always say, first understand whether is this something you're going to enjoy doing, right? Is this something, for a second, don't even worry about, is this the biggest thing? Yeah. Is it going to give me $1 billion? Is this going to be, something where I'm going to make tons of money? Because the moment that becomes your primary driver, I'm not saying every case you will do it, but there is a higher probability of making mistakes. Because then you're doing something for the sake of the money, not because it's something innate to you, something that you will enjoy doing. For me, I think the joy that you have in a startup journey is really something that you should never compromise on. Because if you don't get that, even if you get the money, I think you're a poor guy.
And who better than to understand from you and the other co-founders of BigBasket? You guys have given 25 years to one space. I don't know anybody, at least in Internet India, who has given so much to just one space.
Yeah. I mean, I like I said, yeah, in fact, many times we always feel, I think we have way past our expiry date.
And what do you mean by that?
What I mean is, we are all quintessentially startup guys, right? Yeah. The scale that we've reached today in BigBasket is not something that we ever thought we want to be in, because that's not really what. But I think why it still gives us the kicks, it still gives us the excitement, is the fact that we still view it as a startup. So, which is why when...
Even at $3 billion?
100%. We for us, which is one reason when you guys say, you guys have done... So, okay, fine. I understand broadly. But when I walk into the office, I don't think it's any different from where it was 10 years back. Because I think the challenges are different.
Yeah.
Because scale brings its own set of challenges and, issues which you need to tackle. As a startup, your challenge is very different, right? But your thinking process still has to be, first thing, like I keep saying, I think I've said it some 100 times already, so pardon me for saying that, but I think first thing is stop taking yourself seriously. Because the moment I think where a lot of people go wrong in their heads is when they start thinking, no, I've made it now. I'm a big guy, right? I'm a large guy. I've scaled. So, which means success equals greatness. I don't think so. There are great people who have not succeeded. Because I think there's a lot of luck which is required. Yeah. You have to be at the right time at the right place, right? And a lot of things have to fall in place, because anybody who says I've become successful purely on the basis of my merit alone, I think fooling themselves. Because I think God has to be with you and you have to have a lot of luck.
Yeah.
Whether you call it luck, God, fate, whatever you want to call it, I think those have to help you. Without that, the best of guys who are doing all the right things can still lose out. Or
Please give me example of people who you think are like highly great but haven't achieved success.
I don't know. I mean, off the cuff, if you ask me to name somebody, I'm not able to put a name or a thing to it. Where I'm coming from is I'm looking more at the fact that, many times there are twists and turns, and that twist could have gone. I'll tell you my classical example for this is going back to my good old cricket example. Like when, in the T20 World Cup, when the last over, Dhoni had to figure out who to give it to, right? He took a massive risk, right? If the risk paid off beautifully, so everybody said he's a genius. But look at it slightly differently. If he had got whacked for a 6, what would have happened? Dhoni would have just got berated and would have most likely.
Yeah.
So for all you know, that could have been a turning point in his life. It was a turning point in his life. Fortunately for him, it worked out. It may not have worked out also. If it didn't work out, you wouldn't have had the Dhoni, the captain that everybody
It was very early in his captaincy.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So if he had got dropped from the captaincy because of that, then you never know. See, what I'm saying is events can just shape your life like that. And therefore, where I'm coming from is, I'm not talking about success versus failure based on the fact that, but success or failure can easily get affected by 1 or 2 events or 3 events or 4 events. And they are happening over a period of life, right? So therefore, I think luck or fate or God play a very key role in success. So one thing, therefore, very critical for anybody to realize is, just because you're successful, suddenly it's not because you've become the wisest guy or you're a genius. You're not. I mean, you're exactly who you were 10 years back. Nothing is. I mean, you learn more. And you definitely learn from failures, right? And you learn from mistakes you make. So therefore, I think the fact that we've been in this for too long doesn't necessarily mean that we are some great guys who have, who know everything about internet. We don't.
But spending 25 years, right? Do you attribute some part of it that you gave it your all for a long period of time, so it had to happen?
That goes without saying. We have given it all, right? No question about it. I think we have given it a lot of energy, a lot of our insights, but we've enjoyed it also. In my view, that's very critical. Don't get stressed out by it. I think enjoy the journey. There will be stress points. There's no question about it. But most days should be good. Most days should be fine. Most days should be enjoyable. I think it has happened for us. And that is what really keeps you motivated to keep coming back next day morning and still at it, and gives you the energy to fight the battles. And therefore, I think there's no question that we have given it all. And I think that's true for a lot of people, right? Most people, for instance, I'm sure each of you, when you look at your podcast shows, for instance, when I told you about the opportunity, immediately you said, can you please connect me? So, I mean, you're giving it everything, right? So, all of us do. I'm not saying that everybody does, but a lot of us do. But a lot of us may not always necessarily find the success that we may want. And in my view, that's okay. Success is, again, in my view, like money is a byproduct. But I think more important is to really enjoy the journey and do what you like. And that excitement really is, in my view, that's really what differentiates working for a startup versus a very established company.
So I want to go back to 99, right? What brought you back from Singapore to India?
No, I didn't go to Singapore.
Okay, so
that's what I said. So Singapore, there was an opportunity. I had to move if I didn't. And that is when Planet Asia happened. And I realized that I didn't have a clue about what that could turn out to be. And just the sheer excitement. And that's really where Hari came back. So you asked a question earlier on whether we knew each other. So for instance, Hari, Vipul and I worked together in TVS Electronics. Then I went on to do other things, and Hari was working for Wipro at that point of time. So when Planet Asia started...
And can you tell us more about Planet Asia, what it is?
So Planet Asia was started in 97, and basically it was a company which was focused on building solutions, software solutions around the internet.
And who started it?
It was Michael and that is Pradeep Kar and team, and I was the first CEO of that company.
Understood.
And when we started, I needed somebody who was very strong from an execution perspective. So I called Hari, who was in Bombay at that point of time in Wipro, and I said, there's this opportunity. Do you want to take a shot at it?
Yeah.
But highly risky, because I said, I have jumped in. So he, I think, took very little time to say, boss, done, I'm jumping in.
And he joined as a COO?
COO, I mean, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
So for us, we've never really been too bothered about roles.
Titles.
So it was two of us were running it together.
Yeah.
So both of us ran it together. And we didn't really have too much of a division in terms of who does what. And to a great extent, that's continued even the BigBasket journey. Between the five of us, we don't really kind of have too much of a thing saying, oh, I can't touch that, or the whole idea came in fact, it all started in, we had built a payment gateway for Citibank.
Okay.
And so in one of those typical, this classical way, we had gone to meet the Citibank, one of the senior people, yes. And just towards the end of the handover of the project. And so this gentleman, turned to Hari and me and said, you know what, the payment gateway piece works for us. What we had also done was we had built what was a kind of a mall where they could bring their merchants to come and put up their products. That would have been literally the first e-commerce in the true sense in an Indian context. So he said the payment gateway business makes sense to us, but the small business doesn't make sense to us.
And what is small? Because
small meaning, see, what is a payment gateway? Payment gateway is somebody makes a transaction. Today, for instance, when you make a transaction, what do? When you finally come to the page where you have to make the payment, you click on something. Then you are taken to a payment gateway where you give your credit card details, debit card details, or UPI details, and that section is called the payment gateway. So we had built that. So, but to get to that point, somebody has to first buy something, right? So we built the whole shopping
digital shopping experience.
Exactly. Okay. But then somebody has to be there on the shop, right? And that we said would be all their merchants. Or that's the way the Citibank local team had thought about it. So he said, this part I don't want to do. Then he turned and asked us, we will continue to invest into the payment gateway. Why don't you guys do the mall part of it?
Okay.
So Hari and I, this was their Citibank office in MG Road.
Okay.
You've seen those two black towers. So we just came out, there was a coffee day. So we sat and Hari and I said, this looks really interesting. So we came back and told Pradeep.
And you both were 40 then?
We were 40, yeah. He was 2 years younger.
Okay.
So whatever, 38. So we came back and told Pradeep that this looks very interesting. Pradeep at that point of time said, boss, I don't think this fits in with what I have in mind for Planet Asia. Then we said, if that's okay with you, then we would like to step out and do a startup.
And back then, startups were not cool or...
Not at all. No coolness associated with it at all. But I think maybe it's a bit of a timing. So that's a time when the concept of a VC or an investments were just coming into play.
Not in India, but globally.
Even India.
Okay.
Just about startup. This really, we were in literally the advanced or the early stages of the dot-com boom. Because the dot-com boom and bust happened in India very quickly.
Yeah.
In the US, it started around 95, 96 and went on till 99.
When Amazon started in 94 and then Jeff Bezos took it.
No, but it took a while before the dot-com boom really started. So we came in 97 and that is when it started in an Indian context and the bust happened by 2000.
Yeah.
So it was a very quick
window.
Boom to bust or bust to boom. This one. So we came in and that is a time when it was not yet cool, but we started realizing that there's an ability to raise funding from outside.
And it was you, Hari and Vipul.
Yeah, me, Hari, Vipul. It was Ramesh.
Okay.
Right? Ramesh is my brother. He was in the Navy. He retired from the Navy after his 21 years of compulsory service. And he had just come out. So, and we needed somebody who was very strong in logistics. So he had done a lot of work in Navy in logistics. So I requested whether he's kind of keen to look at take a shot at it. He said he's fine. And Vipul again was very interesting. So Vipul at that point of time was working for Wipro. So he came to Planet Asia to meet Hari and me.
Yeah.
And he said, interestingly, he was looking at what internet solutions that Wipro should look at.
Got it.
Okay. So he came to Planet Asia to see whether he could use Planet Asia services.
Okay.
So we told him, Vipul, great stuff, but unfortunately, you'll have to talk to our successors.
Yeah.
So he said, where are you guys going? So we said, we are doing this startup. He said, boss, I am on.
That was it?
It was like that. It was like, he literally said, boss, I am on. So, I'm into it and I'll take maybe 2-3 months to get out, but I'm definitely signing on for this. So he signed on. Ramesh signed on. Sandeep, who was with us in Planet Asia, he signed on.
Okay.
The sixth guy was Vaiti, who was in Wipro, who was a very close colleague of Vipul and Hari. So they felt that for marketing, Vaiti could be a very good guy.
Yeah.
So therefore, what we did, we spoke to Vaiti. He took maybe a week to figure out. And at the end of it, he said he's on. So 6 of us came on board. This is really how the whole thing.
At that time, the concept was not grocery, right? That time.
We wanted to do, in fact, it started with books.
Yeah.
Then went on to music. Then went on to grocery. Then went on to jewelry. We did everything.
Okay.
So literally what a Flipkart is today is what we did. But obviously on a dial-up internet. It was obviously a very different ballgame. But absolutely outstanding journey. I mean, crazy technology challenges. Phenomenal fun.
And then when did you pivot from an online to an offline?
So when the bust happened, we realized we needed to do something different. Yeah. So fortunately, what had happened was we had really started one physical store on a franchisee basis for Big Bazaar. In the first Big Bazaar, which is in which is in that Hosur Road, the one next to Forum. It's not there now, I think.
Yeah.
So we did a store-in-store for them. For grocery, because they were in everything other than grocery. So we did the store-in-store and we realized that maybe the way to pivot this should be to go towards that, because internet had become a bad word by then.
Yeah.
E-commerce was obviously something nobody wanted to touch with a barge pole.
Today they are berating startups and there are various bad apples they are saying.
100%. I've seen this cyclical curve happen so many times that whenever they say, now we are very sensible. I say, yeah, sure, another 5 years. So you've seen this now so many times over the last 25 years.
There are various new bad apples that come after every 5 years.
100%. I mean, and people will suddenly throw in money after literally like there is no tomorrow. And then after 5 years, there'll be one huge scarcity for money. Then again, after 3 years, there'll be again one huge glut.
Yeah.
So I think it's a matter of, I think this is one thing which follows the sine curve without doubt, right? So you can actually, if you're very comfortable, you can wait out for the next curve. So it will come. It has to come. So there's no question about it. So therefore, we kind of went on to doing the physical stores.
And you had raised some VC money back then?
No. We raised, in the physical thing, we just did a kind of a bridge money and built it on a very interesting platform. What we did was we used the technology we built for the online to primarily make sure that the whole stock in movement management of was outstanding for a store. In fact, we did some very interesting things in those days, which have become kind of quite standard now. They're very new in those days. So we used to do what we called as a flow through, where in the main warehouse, there would be no stocks. The stocks would come and move to the stores. So the entire stocks were sitting in the stores, which did two things for us. One, the overall inventory holding became low, because of which we were on a negative working capital. See, working capital is a very critical piece in any retail business. So we were on a negative working capital. Now the early people to do that. Now I think a lot of people do that. We do it in BigBasket. So I think it's become quite commonplace now. Those days it was very new. So we used that technology strength to build out thing. But we did the stores on a franchisee basis.
Okay.
So we had franchisees who invested into the store and the store people. And we said we will provide the technology and the stocks.
Okay.
And the whole cycle of figuring out what is selling, what is not selling, buying more of that, how much to stock, all that we would do. So the franchisee, literally we told them, your role is to be the customer person. So just focus on making sure that you have a personal relationship with the customers.
Yeah.
That really worked brilliantly. In fact, because franchisees, finally their money is made when the store does well.
Yeah.
So, and when you take out all the things which they are not good at, which is managing stocks, managing what to buy, how much to buy, suddenly it just eases their time and energy to just focus on customers. Really made a big difference. Fabmall really was a good success story. It really did well. And then we merged with Trinetra. And between Trinetra and Fabmall, the whole thing got sold to the Birlas, which became the More store. That was in 2007. So that's how that innings ended.
And what did you do for the next 4 years after that ended?
So Vipul and I used to invest. So we were. I was very clear that I said I'm not going to a job or even no startups also.
Okay.
So for me, I think the excitement was to see if I could now work with startups and really work in a way where the way we used to do this was Vipul and I used to commit half a day a week with each startup. We did about 5.
Any known names from?
No, in fact, one of the known names is what has become BigBasket. Okay. So, therefore, one of the things that we did was what we converted. I'll come to that story a little later. So really, we did that. One was Edu Sports, which is doing well. I mean, they do sports for schools. Okay. Very, very interesting. So, Sawmill does a very good job.
Yeah.
So we did that. And the way we worked with it was we used to do half a day a week with them. It was an amazing journey because we used to spend 2.5 days a week, right? Actually going and meeting people, working, and gave us enough time to understand the business hands-on.
Yeah.
And therefore, we could really, in that sense, to an extent, value add to those businesses. So that is what we did. And one of them was what started out as an online grocery. So in one of the people who used to co-invest with us was the gentleman K. Ganesh.
Yes,
Ganesh and Meena. So Ganesh and Meena, we go back a long way. So we used to also do. So in one of those meetings when we were discussing about some other thing, Ganesh told me, "Boss, we want to talk to you about something different."
Okay.
We said, "Okay, tell us, what is it?" So they said, "Boss, we should do something on online grocery." This is 2011 July, I think. So they said, Bablu and I were there. So they said, we should do something in grocery. I think you guys have done online. You guys have done physical grocery. Now the time is ripe.
Yeah.
And this could be big. He said, it could be big, but unfortunately, we have already committed ourselves to this Abhinay, who's a startup. So, and we said, both of us don't have any interest in running the company. So then we told Ganesh, let's do 2 things. You speak to Abhinay.
And Abhinay was an entrepreneur you had funded by then.
Yeah, we had worked with him. He had just started up about a year and a half back.
What was the idea
of
Abhinay?
Abhinay was to do exactly what. Right. So it was bang on. So Ganesh said, in fact, actually more than us, Ganesh said, I will talk to Abhinay.
Yeah.
I will convince him to fold in.
Yeah.
And we told him, we will talk to Hari.
Okay.
If Hari is willing to come on as a CEO,
you guys are going
then we are on.
Okay.
So he's
you were
okay.
ready to take that full-time plunge again? Because I believe, right, it was a 400 CR exit by More, right, back then.
At that time, yeah.
At that time, right? 400. So all you guys were financially retired.
No, we financially, which is why I said I was not at all keen on doing another startup of my own. Yeah. So neither were others. So for us, the point that, in fact, I still remember Hari said, boss, this journey is not going to be about money at all. Okay. I'm saying, leave alone anything else, absolutely not something that is going to be a consideration. We said it wasn't much in that time. Now it's going to be even less. Yeah. So what really happened was, so Hari said, we told if Hari comes on, as a CEO, and if Abhinay is willing to fold in, we are fine. So Ganesh spoke to Abhinay. Within the next 2-3 days, we spoke to Hari. And literally within a week, it was all sealed. So we said, okay, we are back on the saddle again. So this was July. We, I think, incorporated the company in August, I think. And December we had launched, December 2011. And then it's been one crazy journey.
And then, I believe, you guys said you will not do single thing till you secure an investor. And you were very fixed that it has to be a 10 million check is the first check. Nothing else than that.
I mean, maybe that's a bit of a stretch of the thing, but I'm saying, we said, let's not jump in too early, but let's make sure that we are funded well. And in fact, in those days, it was one of the biggest checks for a startup because it was the early days still for the business.
10 million and 40 million.
Exactly. It was like crazy in those days. So, and it was a fantastic journey. I mean, it's really something which is just built on itself. But I mean, enough challenges, enough ups and downs. So nothing comes free, right?
So did you expect that this time at least there would be no 0 to 1 challenges? Right, because the last time there were many 0 to 1, right? The market crashed when you started. You thought of doing online. You were back to building brick and mortar.
Right. True. No, which is really, I think, to a great extent, I would say, which is why, for instance, multiple challenges, the fact that there is a fundamental confidence about the fact that online and grocery are here to stay is something we knew.
You knew in 2011?
Not 11. I'm just saying as the journey progressed, we realized we seem to be in a very good shape. I mean, the basics are all done in terms of the fact that there's enough customer demand, there is enough traction happening. So therefore, it is more a question of making sure that the execution was outstanding. And that is really what needed to be done day in and day out.
So it was you, it was Hari,
Vipul, me, Abhinay and Ramesh.
Okay. 5 of us. 5 of you.
So 4 of us from the 6. And Abhinay as the
Abhinay was the new guy.
In a sense. But actually, as Abhinay keeps saying that when we were in 99 in Fabmart, he had done a startup of his own. It was called stylecountry.com. So at that time, he had met me a few times. So we knew each other. So that's how when he started this new journey, because he went and did grocery for Infosys in terms of Tesco and all that. He did projects there from a tech implementation perspective. So that's really when he realized that maybe a Tesco kind of a model could work very well in an Indian context. That's when he came back and started. And the moment he started, he approached us saying that, this is something which you guys can definitely help me with.
And I think K. Ganesh and Meena Ganesh became the unknown co-founders.
We worked very closely together right through. And because we knew each other since a long time, it just made it so much easier. And in a way, in fact, Ganesh pitched it was also very simple. He said, you guys know online, you guys know groceries, so you guys take care of the company building. I will take care of the funding. I will make sure that I bring the investors into the game. So initially, he in fact did a lot of pitches of his own. And I think fortunately, since that thing came in very early, it really made our life journey that much easier. But nothing is easy, I can tell you that.
And how did you 5 of you split the roles among yourselves?
Like I said, this is really where we were very fungible. I mean, we didn't really put some hard lines saying, this is you, this is you, this is you. So it was always So the way I looked, Hari obviously as a CEO took on the entire overall responsibility, including people and making sure that the fundamental pieces are in place. And Vipul clearly took on the role of making sure that the investor side and the finance was taken and marketing. So that was like a critical piece. Abhinay did a lot of things, including some of the new ventures we did in terms of B2B and all that. And Ramesh took care of the entire logistics. And I kind of really floated around trying to look at new areas, looking at troubleshooting, putting some amount of effort into tech, but primarily becoming more a free-floating source. I think it's assuming a company can afford it, it's very useful because like I keep telling guys also that the person with the least work in this company is me. And the person with the most open calendar is me.
Okay.
So if you look at my calendar, it's always open. You want a meeting tomorrow morning? No problem.
Right from 2011, it was always open.
Mostly it has been like that. So mostly my calendar will always be open because somebody wants to meet me, they can pretty much meet me in the next 2 hours. So that way what happens is, if it's always very risky when at a senior management level, people say their calendars are blocked for 3 weeks. I remember one of the early days when I was trying to meet a gentleman, and very senior person, and he said, I think next month around 25th we can meet. I said, my Joe, if this gentleman's calendar is fixed, unless he was trying to palm me off, saying that if I say so far, the guy won't come. So, but it wasn't that, because I knew he wanted to meet me. But I realized his calendar was blocked. I said, how can you have your calendar blocked for 30 days plus? It doesn't make any sense to me, which means your mind is blocked for that long.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important, especially for a senior management, to really have open slots. One, from the perspective that people can approach you if they have an issue, or more importantly, if they have an idea, you have the time to think. If your calendar is blocked, you don't have time to think. In fact, that's one thing that is always a big worry, that if people are just going from meeting to meeting to meeting and just only listening or maybe sometimes contributing, are you getting the best out of those people? So I think very important for people to have that, in a sense, what now I think every popularly called me time, right? So whether you call it me time, which is me personal, or me official, it doesn't matter. So I think me official time is also very important.
Block your calendars for yourself.
Exactly. So that, you have time to think. Sometimes, otherwise you could be just running the race just very hard without really knowing for sure whether you're running the right direction or not. Good to sometimes stop, figure out. And it's nice. And more importantly, it gets you in fresh every morning.
Yeah.
If you're kind of back to back all the way, and next day morning again you're starting back to back, where's
you lose the joy of doing things.
Exactly. You need to feel the pulse of, you need to feel alive.
Yeah.
And whether it's in your personal life or in your professional. When you walk into the office, you should feel energy.
Yeah.
And I remember in our old office, we used to, for a long time, our corporate office was one on Dumlur, which is one floor of 2,000 square feet.
Okay.
Till about 2017 in. By which time we had become reasonably big. So people used to say, oh, this is your corporate office. Yeah, this is our corporate office. This is where we sit. So, in fact, Vipul was very keen not to move from there. But finally, I think he realized it was becoming too complex to have 4 offices, people distributed. So then we moved to this new office. So in that office, it was a small office. But a lot of people used to tell me when they would come in, they would say, boss, we can feel the energy in this office. So I think that's very important. When you walk into the office, do you feel energy, or do you feel a very kind of a...
So when you walked into the neon zone here, what kind of energy you felt?
I found that, all the people, see, frankly, there's a smile.
Yeah.
Right? That's the first and most important thing.
Yes.
When you don't have a smile, you're kind of half dead anyway.
Yeah.
Right? So you have a smile, you have energy, you have... that's key. And that's when you get the sense that you are enjoying what you're doing. So you're not doing it because, okay, podcast karna hai, theek hai, kar lo. I saw all of you kind of energized, right? That makes a difference.
Yeah. So I want to ask, right now, reflecting back on 40 years of work almost, right? Which has been your best decade personally and professionally? It's a tough question. You can take time to answer.
Yeah. No, I don't normally kind of try to box it like that. But I will tell you, one of the things that I've enjoyed the most, surprisingly, is my stint in Microland, Delhi. In fact, I used to have a small office, some 25, 30 people, but selling and servicing in those days very good networking equipment, which we used to sell.
So this is which decade to which decade?
This is 93, 95. So
it's still 2 years. I want to answer a decade.
The whole decade you want. I think decade-wise, I wouldn't really differentiate.
Okay.
All decades have been brilliant. Touch wood. Brilliant meaning not necessarily in terms of success. Don't take it to the wrong way. I mean, brilliant because I've enjoyed it.
Okay.
Others may not have, but I have enjoyed it. So,
And those 2 years you recall specifically?
no, specifically because somewhere I think it was, it really set the tone for what I did for the rest of this one. I think it really was a very good experience I had. And one thing which makes me really happy is the people who joined me in those days, many of them joined as engineers coming from a third level engineering college and all. Many of them have done brilliantly well. Many of them have started companies. They've done extremely well. So it gives me a lot of joy. For instance, out of the blue, after around 2007 or 8, one of these gentlemen who was working in Singapore called me saying, "Boss, I want to tell you, today I did something which you had told us long back. And I remembered you because, I did it and it worked for me." So I said, you can't get more joy than that. So a lot of that happened during that time. But I think all I would say across the board, most of the journey has been very, very enjoyable.
Which was more challenging, BigBasket or Fabmart?
Fabmart was a much shorter run. BigBasket has been a much longer run. So in phases, I think both have been challenging. In phases, both have been amazing. So I wouldn't really say this has been more or less. It's just that didn't take to the scale that this has gone to. But I would say challenges change, that's all. As you scale, the kind of challenges you get are very different. So the kind of challenges changes, but challenges are always there. Otherwise, it gets boring also. So in fact, it's like driving in India versus driving in Australia, right? Yeah. So when I drove in Australia, pretty much the biggest problem was you're falling asleep. There's nothing happening. And New Zealand especially. If you drive in New Zealand, you don't see anybody. Many times you don't see anything else. You're just driving, but absolutely amazingly beautiful, but nothing happening on the road. So you can potentially fall asleep. In India, every 10 feet on an expressway, there's somebody jumping in. So therefore, you're on it's like running a startup. Yeah. Driving on Indian roads is like running a startup. So you need to be on your toes.
India is the third startup nation in the world, right? After
without any doubt, because we are all so trained for it.
And you had the team size of 15,000, right, at BigBasket?
More now. Now it's closer to about 35,000. Wow. So it's pretty large, which is what I'm saying. That brings a different set of issues. Scale has its own problems, but it also has its benefits, because just the fact that, for instance, when the early days, like I keep saying, like if you look at the top FMCG companies, you would go there, right? When you become reasonable size, somewhere you'll meet in between. Once you're very large, they come to you. Yeah. So that's really what scale does to you. So scale gives you the benefit, but I think one thing we keep driving very hard, and there's one other thing where I think we are not very good at as Indians. That is, we don't, the moment you are in a position of strength, you bring in a lot of arrogance into it, right? So for instance, the way we treat our people who sell to us, right? We always feel that right? So one of the things we did when we did our direct buying from farmers, one of the big worries we had was there's a collection center in the middle of nowhere, right? Where the farmers are coming and delivering. And ideally, in a typical cash payment scenario, that's the guy who would have paid the cash also. Yes. And the moment you do that, he becomes a powerful guy. So he can use that power against the farmer.
He can leverage his position.
So we said we need to change that. And thankfully, one of the things which happened beautifully at that point of time was this whole government scheme of
opening new bank accounts.
New bank accounts, right? So we told all the farmers, if you have to work with us, you have to have a bank account.
And this is which year?
This is 2015-16. So that's when the Jan Dhan just started. So that is really why it made it very easy for us. It was a real boon for us, because we told people that you can't tell us that it's difficult, because now with Jan Dhan you can't say that. Yeah. Now you can open an account. So we said it's mandatory and we will only pay into your account. And the big plus for you is you don't need to follow up with anybody.
You don't need to fill papers or anything.
No, and you don't need to talk to anybody. You don't need to ask anybody. The money will get into your bank account. This is much before the UPI days. Okay, so we had to work with the banks to do so the way it worked was the person would come and deliver. In the system, it gets entered. It automatically creates because they don't have a bill and all that, right? So it just creates the equivalent of a bill, creates a payment voucher, and the payment voucher would go to the bank, and the bank would then credit the farmer account. Typically, we said next working day. And sometimes it would be the second working day.
But the farmer's only responsibility became to deliver the goods to your warehouse. That's it. He didn't have to go to the bank.
Nothing. And that continues till today. Now, of course, with UPI, it's become a lot simpler. But we did this before UPI because UPI came a little later. But the big enabler there was the Jan Dhan. That was an amazing scheme. They really made sure that even the poorest of poor could open a bank account. And that made it easier for people to deal with them. So the reason why I'm saying that is the potential place of power for a person over that farmer, we removed it. And we have to think like that. We have to say, how do I make that farmer's life better?
Yeah.
How do I, as the stronger person, it's your responsibility to take care of the weaker person, right? Normally what happens is as a stronger person, exploit the weaker. So that's exactly the point. You made it perfect. We put it perfectly.
And how many farmers work with today?
Today we have about, I think, 15,000-20,000 farmers.
Wow.
So
across South India, North
India? Across India. So we have what we call as these collection centers. These collection centers are typically about a 3,000, 4,000 square feet place where we have agronomists who are trained agronomists, right? People who are from agriculture, BSc agriculture background. One of them will be there and there'll be the buyers. Very small team. And the job of the agronomist is to work with the farmers in that area to help them with some tips on cultivation, the basics, bring some science into the whole thing, and be of assistance to farmers as required.
Yeah.
Don't go and push them, but be of assistance to them. So they come and deliver it there. And the moment they deliver it, it gets weighed and the receipt is given to the farmer and the money reaches his bank. So it's been a very, very important. In fact, one of our investors is CDC, which is of course called a different name now, of UK. They also have a social responsibility aspect. So they have a team which comes and checks from a social responsibility is there. So they wanted to go and talk to a lot of farmers and they did that. And they were very happy at the end of it because one of the things the farmers said, in fact, they said two things. They said, one, we get almost 6 to 7% more than what we would have got otherwise.
Yeah.
And we get our money in 2 days and without follow-up. We said exactly what we wanted to achieve.
And that with the distributor would have been, let's say, they would have followed for 30 to 90 days.
Maybe. So the point really is, more importantly, the pain of following. See, the keys, which is really sometimes, as you scale, the bigger worry for us always is there are many touch points, right? Because it's not that we can control every touch point. How do we make sure that? So one of the things which is always a point of worry for us, and we try our best to communicate to everybody that if at all somebody asks for something different, right, to supply to BigBasket or to work with BigBasket, please escalate to us. Because, one thing we are absolutely ruthless about is integrity. Because we feel that if somebody is, in any way, so two things we are absolutely ruthless about is that, and the whole thing about sexual harassment and all that. We have a fantastic, in fact, a very strong women's team heading HR. So, and they make sure that.
No, I remember TN Hari setting it up very well.
TN is phenomenal setup. In fact, very, very, because we always tell people that it should hurt us inside, right? When something like this happens. And Because if you say that it's okay, ho jayega, I mean, it's after all a large organization. You can't afford to do it.
And these 30,000 people they're all full-time employees of BigBasket?
No, I mean, I would say half of them are.
Yeah.
Half of them are what we call as now the gig workers, as the terminology is being given. But for instance, we do a few things which we really feel are important. Like we have a trust. We've created a trust. That what we do in the trust is we offer educational grants to these delivery people, including people who are gig workers and our pickers, and the lowest level in that sense in terms of the salary scale. For their own selves, because many of these guys are people who are 21, 22, who dropped out of school because they didn't have the money, but want to do it.
Yeah.
So we help them with grants to go back to school.
Correct.
And sometimes they want to do it for their brothers. They may not want to do it, but they want their brothers or sisters or their children. In fact, that's what sometimes we're amazed. Some of these grants are coming for, I mean, in the name at least, international school. Okay. But I mean, may not be the true international school, but English medium schools. So they want to educate their kids, because the good thing is there is that upward movement in terms of what they want their children to do.
That's their only shot, let's say, to go from a family which earns 15 to 30,000 rupees a month to aspire for, let's say, a lakh rupees a month.
Exactly. No, and I think as organizations where we have the capability and the wherewithal to do it, we should do the best we can. So we set up this trust, and that's one amazing thing. We've had a fantastic board right through, all along. So the board didn't even we just told them that this is our plan, this is what we want to fund the trust. It was approved within some 2 minutes.
At Neon, we try to do it in a very, very, very small way, right? Our management fees is very small because the fund itself, we are now raising a 25 mil fund. The earlier fund was 10 mil, out of which we have invested, in around 40 SaaS companies over the last 2 to 3 years. So a part of the management fees is carved out for the kids of help, right?
Very nice.
It can be our help, or it can be
anybody,
any help. That each fund, the goal is to support 3 children with their entire education.
Wonderful.
Right? So
wonderful. I'm just saying it's fantastic. What I'm saying is, don't worry about the size of what you do. Start doing it, because the more people who do it, and more importantly, I'm happy that you're talking about it. I think let's spread this word around that all of us can do whatever we can in our own small way, and that's going to help. And I think the good news is people are looking at the fact that education is the only thing which is going to get them out of the hole.
In India, it's the only thing that changes the orbits of a family.
Exactly. And that's what is going to change the orbit of India itself.
The GDP of India that we often talk about, right? It's so low. What can change the GDP of India?
It's already changed quite a bit in the last 25 years, right? 25 years we have gone, I would say 91 onwards.
But you come from an educated family, right? Your father was in railways, right? Your father could support your higher education dreams. You went to IIM Ahmedabad.
Right.
But have you seen in these last 25 years, people from lower strata than you, because you have such a rich experience, jumping into higher orbits just by means of education?
I would say, at least in BigBasket,
BigBasket or before BigBasket?
No, I'm saying our belief, and that's true even earlier, is that more than education as a barrier, we see education as an enabler. So it is not required, for instance, for us to say that, oh, this guy is not an MBA, then he can't be this. For instance, we have had people in product management who are not MBAs.
But can you have people in product management who are 12th pass?
I don't know whether this is a 12th plus, I can check and tell you. But I can tell you one thing. For instance, in our our Fabmart days, the gentleman who headed merchandising at a pretty senior level was somebody who was some 10th pass or 9th pass or something. It didn't matter, because once you see the capability, then what you did in school or college is irrelevant. So one of the things we are very clear about is people are not going to be judged based on their educational qualification, right? Educational qualification is good to have, not mandatory. So we are very, very clear about it, that nobody is going to go up because they have an IMA degree, right? Or a
You are trying to build a IMA Nexus.
not at all. Not at all. So, leave alone IIM, there's no BITS Nexus, there's no IIM, Bangalore Nexus, nothing.
Yeah.
Right? Because I think some of our best guys are not necessarily not from MBA schools. In fact, I think we have some amazing guys like that in BigBasket today.
And even in leadership.
Leadership. 100%. I mean, for us, that's definitely not the most critical piece. But at the same time, I don't want to tell a guy that, oh, you're from IMA, I don't want you.
Yeah.
Right? That's being foolish. So you would say people have to earn their... In fact, that's one thing which I always tell our guys also. And that's something which, if you look at startups, it's very important that people don't get respect because of their past achievements or, more importantly, past qualifications. It should be based on what they do.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that is very critical is people are made to earn their respect from the team below. Not necessarily because of the fact that I've given you a title of vice president, therefore you have to be given the respect. You won't be. In BigBasket, you won't be. Just because you got a title doesn't mean anything. Finally, you have to earn that respect. And you earn the respect by value adding to your team. Right? Once you set that as a culture, it becomes a lot easier. I'm not saying it's easy, not at all easy, but you should be ruthless about it. You should be very focused on it.
The other thing that I want to talk about is, right, obviously the exit by Tata and the operational focus on profitability, right? That Tata is now trying to focus each of his companies that they acquired towards that you guys need to be independent and you guys need to do an IPO.
Correct. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we'd love to learn from you, right? How did Tata happen and how this focus came in?
I mean, see, the Tata deal happened when, interestingly, they approached through a known person at a very senior level. Okay.
It was it through a banker or something? No.
No, not the first thing. I mean, bankers came later, but the first connect happened with Hari directly with a very, very, very senior person who also happened to be a very, very big customer of BigBasket.
Okay.
As an individual customer. So this person was a very, very loyal customer, and the person had told the Tata very, very high-level leadership team that. And that's really where they did some homework, and they came back and said, from a business perspective, from where they wanted to go, and more importantly, I think that's one thing which came again and again, even after we did the deal, a lot of people felt that the good thing is, in terms of values, there seems to be a lot of shared values. Everybody felt that BigBasket as a company is more aligned with a Tata way of thinking rather than anything else.
Yeah.
So, in a sense, it kind of, that's the feedback they kept getting. So they said, okay, this is a company that I think we can work with, because this seems to be a company that keeps what we think are important as their key, requirement.
And you were, by in valuation terms, though it's another metric, you were already a unicorn or a $1 billion company by then.
Yeah, much beyond, yeah. So that, I mean, obviously the valuation was obviously initially a pretty tough thing to get over.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is, this is such a complex and a very large deal. And all of it happened without one meeting, because this is the time when COVID was just, right? Outstanding how a deal of this size we could do without actually meeting.
And COVID was a real pressure for you, right? Because you had to fulfill.
No, this is just after the first wave had ended, and the second wave, I think, had just started. And that's when this started. But by the time we got to this one, the second wave had ended, which was the most lethal phase, right? That's when it was a very, very traumatic thing, the second phase. But amazingly, the entire deal happened without any meetings.
Everything on Zoom.
Everything on Zoom. I mean, today, if you really think back, you really wonder, would it be feasible to do it again? I mean, sometimes some of us, I think, have already forgotten the learnings. In fact, I still recollect from my house, from my balcony, the interesting thing is, during COVID, suddenly my neighbor who has a balcony also facing the same direction, he told me you know what? I saw Nandi Hills. This is some 60 kilometers away. So I said, is that feasible? I mean, I thought it's too far off.
Yeah.
And I realized we could. And throughout COVID, after that, we could see Nandi Hills, right?
Yeah.
So we could see the KR Bridge and Nandi Hills after that. And since then, so we have forgotten all the good things we learned.
Yeah.
I think we learned a lot of good things in COVID. And somewhere I think we have all gone back to living the same way.
Pre-COVID era.
Somewhere it sometimes makes me feel sad that, we learned so much, we could have at least kept 50% of it with us. Right? Somewhere we have gone back to doing so back to no Nandi Hills. Right? So, therefore coming back, I don't know whether we can do a deal of that size and structure and complexity without meeting.
And how much time it took from that first introduction?
About 4 to 5 months,
Wow.
which is not
It
bad
got
at all.
concluded.
Absolutely amazing, actually. It was something which went very, very well because I think there was a synergy, and there was a commonality of purpose, and there was a commonality of values.
And I think the way the Tata structure, I think every deal is, the founders are allowed not to sell any of their shares, right? I think in BigBasket, you guys never sold any of your shares.
Right. No, I know, which is why a lot of people feel it's a 100% deal. It's not, right?
It's
they have
mostly 60-40 or 70-30.
They have a
template for it.
They have a controlling stake.
Yes.
But I think the amazing thing is because of the commonality of values, more than anything else, it just made it easier.
Yeah.
Because we could trust them, they could potentially trust us. They knew that when we say something, we most likely mean it. And that's something that we have always maintained, that the board also, if there is bad news, it's always very tricky. That's one other suggestion, since, we also talked about the fact that this could be useful for startups.
Yeah.
One thing I always recommend very strongly is have a very transparent communication with investors, right? Just make sure that, in fact, we used to meet the investors, the board, every month for the first almost 5 years. Every month we used to meet. And every month we used to present the data, and we used to present it without any coloring. So, you would get hammered.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. When things are not going good, you're going to get hammered. But it's better to get hammered than try to hide it.
Yeah.
In the bargain, you only make it worse later on. So it's better to be upfront. Some people may get away with it. Some people may get away with it forever.
Yeah.
But that's okay. It's their luck. But I think it's very important also. One of the things that we've always done, even since the deal also, is try and be upfront and saying, something bad happened. Bad happened. What to do? Life is like that. We'll try our best to avoid it. We'll try our best to ensure it doesn't happen again. But no point running away from a problem.
Yeah.
And no point hiding it. More than anything else, don't hide anything. It's better to be absolutely honest and upfront with the board.
I think the other thing I appreciate about Tata, even after the merger happens, they value the company fairly. For example, with BigBasket, right? They bought 60% plus stake for 1 billion plus, and now they valued the company again in a refinancing at 3 billion.
Exactly. Absolutely. No, I think, touch wood, so far it's been a fantastic journey. It continues, and they've empowered us. They've come in at a board level. They give us good directions. They've given us phenomenal amount of support with the other group companies where we have some businesses, right? So it's for instance, we sell to all the Tata hotels, right? The Taj hotels. So it's a very, very.
And what about profitability? Do you have any benchmarks on it? The Tata
100%. No, not as much Tata as much as I
Your
think
own.
It's something our own. And Tata's as a group, as you rightly said, very clearly, they're saying, boss, we are not here to do charity. If it's a charity, it's a separate.
Yeah.
We'll have a charitable organization. In a charitable organization, we'll do charity. But in a for-profit company, you have to make profit.
Yeah.
Right? Absolutely fair. Absolutely fair. Absolutely the right way to look at things. Right? So we also tell people that, I don't know whether a customer needs charity from you.
Yeah.
Right? If you can't make the customer pay for what they have to pay, that means you're not doing your job well enough. That's the only thing, man. So if you do your job well enough, a customer is not asking for charity. When I'm buying from BigBasket or from Flipkart or from Amazon, I'm not asking for charity.
Yeah.
Right? You don't need to do I mean, I'm not in need for of charity. So therefore, the point is finally the customer has to value that service, has to value and therefore pay for it, which is really the journey that we need. I think the one thing which has worked very well for us is the fact that it's not just Tata's, right? It's the global economy is pushing everybody across the world, not in India.
Yeah.
More so elsewhere.
Yeah.
Where you don't make money, you're out.
From valuing a company based on the book value, now they're everything cash flow positive.
Absolutely. So I think, fortunately, everybody is back to fundamentals, which is great. We are extremely happy about this movement because, fortunately for us, that is our native way of approaching things. So therefore, in a way, it suits us very well. When you have to compete in a market where there are 3 guys who are behaving in a insane way, there's no opportunity for you to say, no, I'm going to be the same guy. Yeah. You'll get killed. So you have to also become partially insane. Thankfully, everybody has become sane now, so we are back to being insane. So we are partially moved towards insane, and we are back to sane again.
So when do you expect to hit like at least some profitable?
No. See, the good thing is all our businesses, especially the older businesses, make money on a per order. If you take that business, per order. I mean, it makes money at other than corporate costs. Yeah. Right? Everybody makes money. All the older businesses. That's something that we are very clear about and makes decent money. Yeah. The only thing is we have to cover everything and start making the corporate marketing. More than anything, marketing is also a pretty large one. So all that put together, we have to. That's really where I think we are on I would say, very good journey towards that. Very good journey, and I think, in my view, a very, very healthy journey.
But you never face the challenge of like 10-minute delivery, because that has changed the behavior, right?
No, it has. It is a challenge, which is one of the big challenges we have faced. And I think our first reaction to this, when this started in the global economy, right? It's not something which started in India. It started in Europe, surprisingly. And in fact, a lot of our board members told us, this is one new interesting thing which seems to be scaling pretty well in Europe and all that. So we said, park it. I don't want to touch it right now because it's going to be very difficult to make money on it. Therefore, let's not go into something when it's not going to be easy to make money. So we said, unfortunately, as it turned out, when customers were told that I will not charge you more, I will not charge you a delivery fee, I will not charge you anything, and I'm going to give it to you in 10 minutes, customers said, great, fantastic, give it to me. Yeah. So everybody said, give it. So we realized it scaled much faster than what we thought it would. Yes. So we had no choice but to scramble and quickly build the solution. Thankfully, we really turned it around very fast. And BB now has been doing very well. The key focus area now, we've figured out what we need to do to make BB now also make money. Because we can't afford a service which is going to drag you down. Yeah. So very clearly there are a lot of good stuff, both from technology and from process, that we are putting into place, which should kind of make sure that even a BB Now service is not going to be a drag on profitability.
Right. For this podcast, while preparing for it, right, internally they call you God of small things, like very detail oriented.
Yeah. I didn't know this, but I think don't get too much carried away by all this God and all that.
I don't want you to take yourself seriously. You have never taken, but
no, I am a little detail oriented. Yeah, that is true. In fact, one of the things which people always tell me is, your meetings, we are always
prepared,
very scared to come in because we don't know what question you're going to ask, which I haven't thought through. I always tell them, don't worry about it. But I mean, the point really is to be very detail oriented, which is why it's all together, right? Yeah. Being detail oriented, being process oriented. When you think through something, go down to the last level of detail as much as you can.
Does it come to your personal life as well? Like you have to have tea at 8 a.m. sharp and you have to finish it in 5 minutes?
In fact, it's not as bad as that, but my wife sometimes tells me, you're going to give me real problems when you're getting to 75, 80 and all, you're going to kill me. if you're going to continue like this. Yeah, I'm not as worried about the time. But for instance, simple thing like, for instance, even if it comes to grocery, which is why we always used to wonder, why do people need BB Now equivalent service? Because if you plan, you should never run out of anything.
But people don't plan.
We have for instance, a small pantry.
Yeah.
Where I have a simple thing that when you move it from the pantry to your active use space, I order it.
Yeah.
So for me, the important thing is, in pantry, is there one stock available of every item or all the key items? The moment you look at that, you'll never have an emergency.
Yeah.
I mean, once in a while, you may still miss after all this. But that's going to be more a corner case. So in that sense, I'm very detail-oriented even at home.
Yeah.
And give, a lot of grief to a lot of people. I do.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure hosting you. And,
thank you very much.
I learned a lot and enjoyed it a lot.
It was wonderful. I love talking to you guys. And